A formula for understanding mass incarceration. This is taken basically from Shaun King in the breakdown. Every county in the nation has a district attorney. We've got about 2,400 of them. They are the gatekeepers of the entire system. They are the local CEOs of mass incarceration. 95% of all criminal cases come through their offices. A new study determined that over 50% of the people who are currently incarcerated in this nation were charged and convicted in just 125 of those offices. In other words, half of all incarcerated people were prosecuted by one of 125 DAs and the other half by the remaining 2,250 of them. Simple math here. That's 8,800 people per district attorney in 125 district attorneys' offices. 8,800. Before the statisticians and mathematicians get all up in a tizzy, it's just a simple breakdown of the numbers. I wanted to get a couple of data points on the spectrum. 8,800 per district attorney doesn't mean that that's the most. And 488 per district attorney doesn't mean that that's the least. So it doesn't account for the size of the city, how much crime in that city, how many police officers. Doesn't account for any of those things. I wanted to go down this rabbit hole, and I hope you'll take the ride with me. After discovering the number of DAs that we have in our country, I wanted to know, well, how many are up for re-election this year? So I did a couple of searches, found a couple of articles. Here's where we are. Approximately 183 local prosecutors up for re-election in 2019. It's out of 4 states. That's 183 gatekeepers representing 32.6 million residents in our country. After discovering how many were up for re-election, I wanted to really understand the etymology here. So I asked Google how many US senators used to be prosecutors. Came across an article from David Hawkins from rollcall.com. Yesterday's US attorneys may be tomorrow's congressional candidates. Dove into the article, but from that search, I also came across another interesting study. Wendy Sawyer of the Prison Policy Initiative does a deep dive on Fordham University historian Jed Sugarman's work in what he calls prosecutor politicians. He says the prosecutor's office has become a stepping stone to higher office with dramatic consequences in American criminal law and mass incarceration. Wendy explains in her write-up that Jed's study is a work in progress, and they simply took a sampling of 10 years to see if the theory held up. From '07 to '17, they discovered prosecutor politicians in 38 states, with 38% being AGs, 19% governors, and 10% US senators. When asked what inspired him to study the trend, Sugarman said he observed that prosecutors with political aspirations appear to have prioritized public opinion and personal gain over justice. He's also quoted as saying, ambitious politicians are drawn to the prosecutor's office where they prosecute more arrests and develop a reputation for being tough on crime. Yet, while they prosecute many defendants too aggressively, such prosecutors also fail to adequately prosecute police officers who have killed black men. Isn't that interesting? The principles of sowing and reaping jumped out at me and reminded me of Neville Goddard's quote that most people don't even recognize their harvest when it confronts them. Let's confront the seeds already hitting the political landscape this year and get a grip on our future harvest. 4 states, 183 gatekeepers. Mississippi has 22 counties with approximately 3 million residents being impacted. My home state of New York has 24 counties up for re-election, including my hometown of Queens, with 2.2 million residents as part of the 8.3 million across the various counties up for grabs. PA has all but 18 counties up for re-election, which could potentially impact the entire state of 12.8 million residents. Practically the whole state of Virginia, with 8.5 million residents, will be impacted because only 8 counties are not voting for prosecutors. In theory, This election cycle over the next decade could produce a harvest of future prosecutor politicians in the neighborhood of 70 AGs, 35 governors, and 18 US senators. Are you starting to understand why we say all politics are local politics? Ultimately, it's up to us. We must hold prosecutors to higher standards, scrutinize their agendas with regards to mass incarceration, conviction integrity reviews, prosecution of officers who kill unarmed and innocent civilians, and support efforts to end absolute immunity for themselves and their peers. We must, as citizens, demand that these prosecutors perform their duties with fairness and accountability to restore our system of justice. It's up to us.